In this video, I'm going to be focusing on three things. The first one is actually three things too. The big three: diagnosis, symptoms, and nexus. I'm also going to be covering the importance of using a migraine log. I would recommend using the Migraine Buddy app to track all this stuff. And then I'm going to be going over the law, which is what you need to understand. You need to understand the rating criteria. You need to understand the verbiage, things like prostrating, severe economic inadaptability, and we're going to talk about those things. So that's the focus of this video. So let's hop in and start with number one, which is the diagnosis. You need a diagnosis. I can't tell you how many veterans I've talked to that get medications or treatment for migraines of some sort, and they never got a diagnosis. I have no clue how this is even legal, but the VA does it. I kind of think of, getting treatment or medication for something and not getting diagnosed like in the private world where we live, right? We're veterans, but we're also civilians. So like if I sprain my ankle or twist it or roll it up or something like that, I might go to the doctor. He says, ice it. And then he gives me like Tylenol 3 or something like that. So that would be dealing with an acute, injury. So a diagnosis wouldn't be needed because it's like, hey, we took an x-ray, nothing's wrong. Here's a couple Tylenols and beat it. When you're dealing with the VA, they'll sit there and prescribe you migraine medications for years without you having a diagnosis of migraines. So that's the first place you need to look. You need to look for a diagnostic code and make sure you have a diagnosis. That's one of the big three. In my experience, VA doctors are stingy with handing out diagnosis. Not sure what the reason is. Some are lazy. Maybe some don't want to make the call on the diagnosis. Like in the case of migraines, maybe your primary care doctor wants a neurologist or some other kind of specialist to call out and give you the diagnosis. If that's the case, then lean on your primary care and get that referral to the specialist so you can get the diagnosis. You need to get the diagnosis. Another thing that happens a lot to veterans is they don't know the difference between the Veterans Health Administration, your treating physicians, even though they do a really shitty job at treating us, and the Veterans Benefits Administration. That's where you file your claim and get your benefits. Do not do crossover stuff. If you walk into your primary care and start talking about, yeah, I'm going to file a claim, can you hook me up with a diagnosis? It's the wrong approach. They just have this thing that you're trying to game the system. Avoid talking about your benefits to the Veterans Health Administration. It's easier to keep it clean. Took me a while to understand this, but once I did, I quit talking about the VBA and I just started talking about my symptoms. And, you're after a diagnosis. Different ways to get it. If your primary care won't break it off for you, go to the specialist. If the specialist at the VA won't break it off for you, use a private doctor. You need a diagnosis. You need to get it from somewhere. Don't really care where you get it from, but you need it. You need to document the severity of your symptoms. This is another huge part of this. I think most veterans just suffer from migraines. I mean, who are you really going to complain to, right? And you're just told to suck it up in the military. So we have a habit of doing that. So I think the biggest problems that veterans have, there's two of them. I think they have problems demonstrating that their migraine attacks are completely prostrating. And then they don't talk about the severe economic adaptability. Saying you have migraines is one thing because now you're going off of memory. Yeah, probably once a month or like 3 times a month. And yeah, I think I might have missed a little work. And, you're throwing a lot of I thinks and I kind ofs, and you're trying to recall facts based off of your memory. Not a good way to go. Download the Migraine Buddy app. It's in the Apple Store and the Google Store, and log them. And do this for about 4 months. Every time you have an attack, hit the start button before you go crawl in bed with tinfoil all over your windows. And then when it's over with, 4 hours later, 2 hours later, hit stop, and type in notes. Completely prostrating. Did this happen while you were at work? And your dark room was your boss's office, and he's kind of cool and he understands about migraines because he has them too, whatever the deal is. Did you miss work? Are you on a time clock? Did you lose time? Did you have to use some of your PTO? You need to document all that stuff. If you're considering filing a claim for migraines, I think 6 months is a good amount of time with logs, Migraine Buddy, or however you're keeping track of it. You could do it on paper. You could do it in an Excel spreadsheet, but at the end of the day, you're going to need a log, and an app is such an easy way to do it. You could type notes, you hit start and stop, and that is considered objective medical evidence. So 6 months is what I think is a good time. So if you're thinking about filing a claim for migraines now and you haven't heard of the Migraine Buddy app and you haven't heard of logs, stop what you're doing and start logging your migraines. 6 months shows severity of symptoms in this time period right now. You have that behind you, your claim's going to be a lot stronger. Now you may be thinking, well, I'm just hearing about this log stuff. But I have been listening to you, Combat Craig. I've been making complaints through my Healthy Vet. I've been trying the VA's treatments. I've been taking the meds for migraines. I think I have pretty solid medical evidence for the past 6 months. It's not strong enough. Get a log. It'll just make it stronger. Add to it. It's worth doing this right because when you push all the medical evidence up front when you file your claim, then you don't need to appeal it and submit a migraine log down the road in a supplemental claim or something like that. The migraine log is huge. Migraines are subjective by nature. No doctor can tell you if you're having one, regardless of what kind of testing they're doing. They're subjective. You're having a migraine. No, you're not. Like that doesn't happen. So you need to produce the log that shows frequency, duration, and severity. Remember, that's what it comes down to. Severe economic inadaptability and frequency, duration, and severity. The migraine log does a great job of showing that. Remember that as a veteran, you're considered credible until they consider you not credible because you're lying about shit or whatever. Your credibility's been challenged. So it's perfectly reasonable for a layman veteran like us to produce a migraine log. You're tracking the migraines, the duration, the frequency, and the severity, and you're using an app to do it. The VA will accept that as objective medical evidence because I don't know about you, but I'll have a 24-hour/7 doctor on standby. And every time I have a migraine attack, I'm like, hey, doc, can you hit the start button? Like that doesn't happen. So this is where the log comes in. Migraine Buddy, huge. Migraine log, huge. All right, so we have Migraine Buddy and a log tracking the frequency, duration, and severity of your migraines. How are we going to address the severe economic inadaptability piece? Well, you're going to be doing that by submitting a buddy letter. So the VA wants to see how your migraines affect your social life and your work life. So you want to do both. So you're going to need to be able to answer some questions. How many times have your migraines interfered with your social life? You're getting ready for your daughter's ballet recital. Everybody's excited. Boom, a migraine comes on. You don't go. You can't go. The Saturday baseball game for your son, excited for that. Cool. Let's go. Whatever the name of the team is, right? Well, you don't go. Boom, migraines. These things need to be documented. Let's go to one that your wife is definitely going to be remembering. The anniversary dinner. She knows you have memory loss problems and you forget stuff like your anniversary. So maybe she's in charge of planning it. So she's been planning it for 2 months. You remember for the first time, so you're happy and you give yourself a little pat on the back. 4:00, migraine comes on. Anniversary dinner is canceled. These are the types of things that you need to put into a buddy letter from your wife. I guarantee you, your wife is keeping track of this stuff. She knows every time you missed your kids, whatever, and whatever dinner dates, date week or whatever you have going on with your wife, I guarantee you she remembers all that stuff in detail. Have her help you by writing a buddy letter. This is a good piece of medical evidence to explain to the VA rater what's going on, how this is affecting your social life. Severe economic inadaptability is specifically called out in the 50% rating for migraines. So you're going to want to be able to answer these questions in the form of a buddy letter from your boss. How many times have you missed work due to migraines? How many times have you had to stop what you're doing at work, go crawl into the darkest building at work? Maybe you couldn't even leave and you couldn't even drive home, and your boss understands the migraine situation and he drove you home, picked you up the next day because your car was left at work, and then he drove you to work too. You want to be able to talk about that stuff. Let me jump in here real quick and tell you about my boot camp. If you want to learn more about the VA claims process, check out my boot camp. You can talk to me live. There's a link on the website and in the description, combatcraig.com. And also, if you need medical evidence like a nexus or documenting your symptoms properly, go to our website, combatcraig.com, and it says medteam/nexus letters. Click on that link, fill out the form. Boom, you're done.